Hi everyone, this video is about the femur. The femur is the largest, densest, heaviest bone in the body, and it can withstand up to 1 ton of compressional force. That means if you put a plate here and a plate here and you pressed straight down, it would take almost 1 ton of pressure to break this femur. Bone is as light as aluminum, but is as strong as steel because of the way that the cells are put together on the inside. We will talk about that when we get to physiology. But for now, note the femur. This femur, as you can see, doesn't even fit in the screen. I've got to back it up. This femur is roughly somebody my size, somebody 5'7" to 5'9" perhaps. But this one is really heavy because it's solid plastic. Real bone doesn't feel this heavy. We'll get to play with this in the classroom then. But for now, let's talk about the landmarks. All right, so this is the head of the femur. See, it's very head-like, it's very round. This is the ball that goes into the ball and socket. And remember, I had mentioned on the last video that there is a little dip or dent in the acetabulum of the coxal bone. There's a dent in the head of the femur too. Do you remember what I said attaches to that little dent in the acetabulum? Is the round ligament. So here is the corresponding attachment point on the head of the femur. So that's where the round ligament sits in, okay? So this is the head of the femur. If it has a head, it has a neck. So this is the neck of the femur right here. Okay, that little bit right there. And just in case you're wondering, we are on page 283 and we'll get there in a second, okay? So I keep turning this around, right? Because it doesn't really matter at the moment. We still have the head, we still have the neck, okay? This big piece right here, whether you're looking at it from an anterior view or a posterior view, this big piece right here is the greater trochanter. The greater trochanter of the femur, well, let me put it this way. There's only trochanters located on the femur. There's no trochanters anywhere else on the body. So this is the greater trochanter of the femur. And then this one right here, that's the lesser trochanter of the femur. Again, it doesn't matter where you turn it, these are pretty obvious landmarks. Greater trochanter of the femur, lesser trochanter of the femur. Okay, so the superior portion of the femur is really easy. All right, so this is what your book shows you. So this is an anterior view, what I'm showing you right now, okay? The head, the neck, the greater trochanter. It's very difficult to see the lesser trochanter in the anterior view. It's because it's posterior. But if you take a look at this, this is super smooth, okay? The whole anterior of the femur is really smooth because we have the we have the quadriceps here, and they cover this entire area, okay? So you don't need as much muscle attachment site because this is all covered by muscle, all right? This whole portion really is called the shaft of the femur. See, right here, the shaft of the femur. And if we move down towards the inferior portion of the femur, you can see right here, this smooth area. This is the articular surface. This is where the patella, which is your kneecap, that's where that part is going to articulate. So the patella is actually a floating bone. It's embedded in the back of a tendon, so it's not held onto any other bone with ligament, okay? But it's still going to, I'm going to say, push against this part of the femur here. So you have to have a nice articular surface. So that's what that is right there. Okay, that's the articular surface for the patella. Now, we do have things that stick out on either side here. And then we have these really lovely rounded things in the back, okay? These rounded things in the back are called condyles. And then you have a dip in between, which is the intercondylar fossa. But these two lovely rounded landmarks are called condyles, okay? So you have the medial condyle right here and the lateral condyle right here. And I turn these around. So you can tell that the medial condyle is here because here's the head of the femur. And the head of the femur has to point towards the midline of the body because that's how it articulates. So if I draw a line straight down, well, here's the medial condyle, okay? The greater trochanter is on the lateral side. So if I draw straight down, there's the lateral condyle. And I bring up the condyles first because these bumps on either side are called epicondyles. An epicondyle, remember what epi means from our midterm section? It means upon. So we have an epicondyle here, this rounded part right here, and an epicondyle here, which is this rounded part. It's hard to teach an epicondyle without teaching the condyle first. So this would be the medial epicondyle, and this one would be the lateral epicondyle of the femur, okay? So you can see the epicondyles here and here, they stick out. And we'll actually even be able to palpate the epicondyles of the femur because they're pretty big and close to the surface of the skin, so they're pretty superficial. You also have a little area right in here. It's called the adductor tubercle. It is just a little bit of a raised area where the adductor muscles are going to attach. And it's very difficult to see on this plastic skeleton, but your book shows it nicely. So there it is right there, the adductor tubercle. So we've just gone over all of the anterior landmarks for the femur. Well, actually, we didn't go over the intertrochanteric line. The intertrochanteric line is really just this right here. Okay, it's in between the trochanters. Obviously, inter means between, so intertrochanteric line is right there. Not a significant landmark, really, but you should know where it is. All right, if we go into our visible body, this is the anterior view of the femur. So here's the head, here's the neck, greater trochanter. You can see it looks a bit different. This is the shaft of the femur here. Move that around a tiny bit. This orange bit right here is the patellar surface, the articular surface for the patella. Then we have our lateral condyle and our medial condyle. And then these right here are the epicondyles. So let's see, if we click on medial epicondyle, see, it brings it around to show you right there, medial epicondyle, okay? There we go. So if you're using your visible body, this is an assignment directly from your D2L. You can just click on a structure, greater trochanter, and it'll swing the image around to show you. So this is another way you can use visible body. Okay. All right, now, posterior. So we're looking at a posterior view of the superior portion of the femur. So we had the head, we had the neck, we have the greater trochanter, we have the lesser trochanter, right? Okay, right in here, there's a bit of a dip, and it's hard to see, but there's a bit of a shadow here. That's the trochanteric fossa. So remember, a fossa is a shallow depression in a bone. So there's one right there, okay? Right in between the greater trochanter and the lesser trochanter, there is a little bit of a crest. And again, it's just a raised area right here, intertrochanteric crest. Okay. This one you can see, this one right here, and you can see there's a little bump on the bone here. That's the gluteal tuberosity. The gluteal tuberosity is the insertion point for gluteus maximus. So it definitely has its own attachment because gluteus maximus is a large muscle, as the name suggests, maximus. Okay, right there, it's gluteal tuberosity. Now, if we slide down, just inferior to the lesser trochanter here, you have a pectineal line. Remember, we had a pectineal line on our pubic bone right here. We also have a pectineal line just distal to the lesser trochanter on the femur. This is another attachment site for the pectineus. Okay, pectineal line here to the pectineal line on the pubis. It's just right there. Okay. Let's turn this back around. So we are on the posterior side, and you can see that it's quite a bit different than the anterior. The anterior was really smooth, not a lot going on. The posterior side has more ridges here. The posterior side of the femur has something called the linea aspera. Linea aspera. Now, linea means line, and aspera means white. And I know it's in your book somewhere, and I'm looking for the actual definition. The linea aspera. There it is. Oh, page 279. I'm sorry. Aspera means rough. Alba means white. Sorry. So linea aspera is on the posterior side, and that definition is on page 279. Linea aspera. It's a thick, rough line back here. And because it's so thick, you actually have two lips of it. You have the medial lip of the linea aspera, and you have a lateral lip of the linea aspera. Okay, and that's what it's showing you here. Medial lip of the linea aspera, lateral lip of the linea aspera. We are going to have muscle attachments on both of those, on the medial and the lateral lip of the linea aspera. Now, my femur is different than the femur on the screen. The femur on the screen is a right femur. The femur that I am holding is a left femur. Actually, this is a right femur as well. I don't know why they have that view backwards. Oh, whatever. I guess it's just because I'm facing you and that's facing me. And so everything looks wonky. But anyway, this is also a right femur. See, the head of the femur has to face the midline. So it's right femur. All right. So anyway, medial lip of the linea aspera is here. Lateral lip of the linea aspera is here. If we move a little more inferiorly, you can see these little ridges here. They're kind of sharp. These ridges right here. Okay, these are lines. So we have the medial supracondylar line and the lateral supracondylar line. Remember, supra means above. So this line is above the condyle. So the name tells you where it is, supracondylar line. Okay, they're just here and here. Then, of course, we have our condyles, our medial and our lateral condyles, and then the intercondylar fossa between them. We still have the medial and lateral epicondyles on either side, and right here we have the adductor tubercle. Let's go back to our visible body here, and we'll turn this around so we can see the linea aspera right there. So this is the linea aspera here. Oops, nope. That's the linea aspera right there. Okay, and then this right here would be the medial supracondylar line. And this right here is the lateral supracondylar line. I have to click very specifically. Okay, what's this right here? Any guesses? This green bit? Yep, it's gluteal tuberosity. Okay, it's a lot bigger on this image than this little roughened area right here on our plastic bone, but it doesn't matter. It's in the same spot. That's the gluteal tuberosity. This little bit right here, intercondylar fossa, and then of course you have the lateral condyle and the medial condyle here. All right, so that is it for the landmarks of the femur. Again, these were on, pardon me, page 283 in your book. There's going to be a corresponding workbook page to these as well for labeling, just getting to know the landmarks, orienting yourself to the femur. Okay, so that is it for bony landmarks of the femur. Have a great day.